This is the I Can Do It Hour with your host, Diane Ray.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad you could join me today for the show. So today we're going to pay a little attention to something that we probably ignore every day, our feet. And what if I told you that the secrets to health and longevity were on the soles of your feet? You'd probably say, what? Don't look at my feet. Don't touch my feet. Some people have weird things about feet. I don't know if you've noticed that. But today we're going to cut through all of that and share some really valuable information with you about Chinese reflexology. And I've spent the weekend reading Holly C's book, Soul Guidance, Ancient Secrets of Chinese Reflexology to Heal the Body, Mind, Heart, and Spirit. And I was using my husband as a kind of a guinea pig type of thing. And he really liked it. So we're going to get into the book and find out all about Holly's story. And Holly is a holistic healer and certified massage practitioner, and she's been practicing Chinese reflexology since 2004. And Holly was able to heal herself and others, and now she's on a quest to share her information with all of you. So I'm so happy that Holly could join the show today. Are you there, Holly?
Oh, yes, I am. Hi. Thank
Hi.
you so much for having me here today.
Well, I'm really glad that you're here to share this amazing information because I was using my husband as kind of a voodoo doll, guinea pig with Chinese reflexology. But it was amazing, even some of the results that we were getting just kind of, messing around and going over some of the pressure points that you go over in the book. So it's really complete. There's some amazing exercises in here, so it's really easy for people to read and understand. And you came to Hay House through the Writer's Workshop, which I think is really cool. And that was in San Francisco, right, a few years ago?
Yeah, that's correct. So I went to the workshop, and I submitted my book proposal, and I was the one who won the publishing contract.
That's so amazing. So dreams can come true, right?
Yeah, absolutely, because I had it on my bucket list for years. I wanted to be a Hay House author.
Things can happen. I love it. So definitely if there's writers out there, check out the Writer's Workshop because Holly's a definite success story. And people are really going to benefit from this book. So kind of the basis of it really, the philosophy is traditional Chinese medicine. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. So Chinese reflexology is like acupuncture where it helps to balance and strengthen the energy in the body's energy meridians. Only, unlike acupuncture, there's no needles involved, and the way that you stimulate the energy meridians is through pressure points on your feet.
And people might be surprised to learn that, your feet are actually the body's energy points, like the energy meridians you say in the book pass through the feet. So you call the feet a microcosm of the body as a whole, which is so interesting because it's something that we typically ignore, right?
Yeah, oftentimes we'll stick our feet into uncomfortable shoes, and then that'll compress our toes, and then go figure the toe point, for example, corresponds to your brain and your head area. So if you're compressing that area on your foot, what's happening is energetically it could be compressing the area, the energy flow in your head, and then that could cause headaches, for example.
So there's a lot of things that we can really heal or start to heal on our own just by learning some of the simple techniques that you share in the book.
Oh, yes, absolutely, and that's why I wrote the book. I really wanted to create a book that was easy to read, fun to read, and to share Chinese reflexology in a way that's really simple so that people could practice on themselves.
And this is really a passion for you because you came to this through kind of really your own experience and also where you were following your purpose. This is something that you really wanted to do. And you left a successful career to pursue this. And this is really your calling, right? Your soul's purpose to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Good pun.
So to speak, right? That's
Yeah.
good. I didn't even think about that when I said that. But that's great that you were able to kind of make that shift. And I know a lot of people that are listening, because we get so many calls to Hay House Radio of people that are really wanting to make a change in their lives or follow a passion, and there's always some fear holding them back. And you kind of went through all those things and persevered, and now you have this book to show for it.
Yep, absolutely. I can't take full credit. You make it sound like I was very proactive in it, and I have to be honest here. I actually was forced into following my path by my soul because I wasn't listening to my heart and soul. So I talk about that in the book a lot, how I worked in high tech for about 10 years and really wasn't my passion. And the way that my soul was communicating to me to get me back on track was actually through my health. So by not following my passion, eventually it caused problems with my health, and that's what actually forced me to follow my path.
And you went through some pretty, horrible situations, health-wise, just things would kind of come and go. It was like one thing after another.
Yeah, I had three major health crises in my life as an adult. The first one was a car accident where a car was hit from the side, and I had lateral whiplash that left me with chronic neck and shoulder pain. The second one was what I called my year of illness, and I talk about it in the book, where I was working in high tech. It was so stressful for me because it wasn't what I really wanted to do in my heart, and I knew it too at the time, but I made myself stay in it. And my whole body just started breaking down. I just had all these issues with my resilience, and just, as you were saying, one weird thing after another. And then finally, the third thing that happened, because after each crisis, too, I would recover my health through different things. And the second time, it was the reflexology that brought my body back into balance. But because I'm pretty stubborn, I've got I'd say a very analytical mind. So I went back into working in high tech, even though it had made me sick. Well, not high tech itself, but not following my passion. But I went back working in high tech, and I thought, okay, maybe this time it'll be different. And again, I had problems with my health. This time it was problems with my vision, where I was diagnosed with ocular migraines. So that's kind of like when the camera takes a picture and the flash goes off and then you can't see for a few seconds. For me, it would last for like half an hour, and it would strike randomly. So I couldn't see, I couldn't look at the computer, certainly couldn't drive, and then afterwards I'd be exhausted. And then when I went to go see the optometrist about it, he told me that they didn't really know what the cause was of ocular migraines, and all you could do was avoid the triggers, which were bright sunlight, and I was living in Silicon Valley, California, so lots of bright sunlight, fluorescent lighting, that's what my office had, and computers. So that was basically my life. And he also told me that he diagnosed me with early-stage macular degeneration, which is where usually people get this in their more senior years. I was in my mid-30s and I was diagnosed with this. And what happens is that you lose the central portion of your vision. So to me, that was my wake-up call, because I would sit at my desk at work and I'd look at the computer and I would literally think, I can't stand looking at this computer all day. I can't stand looking at what I'm looking at. And I'm sure a lot of Hay House listeners right now, they understand the connection between the mind and the body. And basically, my body responded to my thoughts and manifested this degenerative disease, the early start of it in my vision. So that's what finally made me step away and start following my purpose. And as I followed my purpose, that's when my health completely turned around. Like no more like I would, get better and then relapse, get better, relapse, because I kept making myself go back to the old job instead of following my purpose. This time there is no relapse, and I would have to say my health is absolutely amazing. Like I'm freakishly healthy, and I have so much energy, and I don't get sick. Like it's so amazing to feel this amazing. That's why I wanted to write this book from my heart and from my soul and be able to share this with people.
Wow. I mean, and that's real healing that's taking place. And that's true. A lot of the Hay House audience, is definitely familiar with the mind-body connection, and we see how that works. I mean, I've certainly seen it in people around me. Someone I know had this horrible TMJ, for years, and then he finally got a divorce and got out of this situation, and, miraculously the TMJ goes away, So we're holding this stuff in our body, and it's creating stress, ailments, and dis-ease, as Louise would say. And you say in the book, healing begins with your mind. So let's tell people that, like, this isn't, woo-woo stuff. The Chinese reflexology that you describe in the book, really works based on the meridian system of traditional Chinese medicine. And this is qi. And a lot of people will be familiar with that term of qi. So there really is an energy that's flowing through our body that gets blocked and causes pain and problems. And this is what you're working with. Is that right?
Yes. So the way to explain it would be, here's a good metaphor or analogy, is if you think of your body's energy meridians, so they're a lot like your circulation for blood, only they are these channels for circulating energy. So if you think of it like a river, if the river is flowing smoothly, then the whole ecosystem is in balance. But if something were to clog the river, let's say you have a negative thought or you have some stress at work, so it's like throwing some debris into the river of your energy meridians. And because the body is energy, the chi, your life force, naturally wants to flow the way it should be flowing. If you throw, a few leaves, a few sticks, then your body is able to manage that. But what happens for people is over time, because of the stresses, because of ignoring their heart's calling, because of those negative emotions, things happen to us, but we don't let them go. So we hold on to the pain, we hold on to the guilt, we hold on to the grief or the fear. And those types of things are like, taking a dump truck and dumping a whole load of debris into your river. And so eventually what happens is that the chi through your body isn't flowing as smoothly as it should. And it really does start, as you're saying, like with that mind-body connection. Those thoughts that you think can really affect the flow of chi in your body. And as long as the chi is flowing smoothly, then the physical body then is in balance, because the chi, in the Chinese medicine perspective, the chi helps the blood to circulate through the body, and it helps the body through all of its processes to flow the right way. Like, for example, when you eat food, the food should be going down from your stomach into your intestines, but if the chi was flowing the wrong way, there's like a term, it's called rebellious stomach chi. That's when people would have, like, say, a lot of burping, or they might be vomiting, and they might be more prone to acid reflux.
So in your experience, people have been able to heal from all of those, from a lot of ailments like that, acid reflux, GERD, migraines. What are some of the other healings that you've witnessed after people began using Chinese reflexology?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to share those. There's so many things, like on my website I have all these articles with different topics, and I give a few simple points that people can practice on themselves for different common ailments. So I have people writing to me all the time. I have one on cold recovery and prevention. So that's actually how I started my blog, but that's a separate story. But you can heal from colds. I've had people writing to me telling me that their blood pressure has gone down. I had a woman write to me that every year if she got a mammogram, they would find a lump or cyst in her breast. Then she found the article on my website for healthy breasts, and she started practicing that routine regularly. And then a few months later, she had her mammogram, and the first time it was totally clear. And then I just heard from her again a year later. So this is her next mammogram. She's keeping up with the practicing, and she said, "Yeah, I've got my second clear mammogram. Thank you so much." I've had stories of like a friend of mine whose father was actually in the hospital. He had pancreatitis, and he had to have his gallbladder removed. And he was actually in really bad shape. He was in intensive care, and the doctors were afraid that his organs were going to fail. And so I wrote to her, and I told her, hey, there's this reflexology. Are you willing to, practice on your father? And you have to stay calm when you're practicing on someone else. And he has to look at the mental and emotional roots as to why he had the pancreatitis. But if you do this, then maybe it can help. And so she did practice regularly on her father. And when the test came back for his kidney levels, the doctors were surprised that his kidneys were functioning as well as they were. And then within a few weeks, he was moved out of intensive care, and he was on his way to recovery. So there's just so many different ways that it's, like, I want to emphasize, too, it's really about supporting the body's natural healing process when you work with the chi. So it's not about, okay, here's a symptom, and now let's just address the symptom. It's about, let's see where's the body weak, and how can we strengthen and balance that energy disharmony, strengthen where the energy is low, or help the energy flow where it's blocked. And then the body then has the right environment for it to heal itself.
And you share a lot of those stories in the book, too, which are so great. And there's one from a doctor who actually went to get tested, Dr. Fu. So there's real, real information, real doctors, people that have benefited from this. And she had, I think it was a liver test for levels. And after using reflexology, her actual levels went down. So people
actually,
are
it was
really healing.
her white blood cell count because she had chronic skin allergies. Dr. Fu is actually my professor at Five Branches University, where I studied traditional Chinese medicine. And she was the one who was proofreading the first draft of my book for me because I wanted to run it by. Because the way I explain Chinese medicine, I take some of those esoteric concepts and I simplify them so that it's easy for everyone to understand. So I wanted somebody with, someone else's eyes other than my own to look at it, somebody with a good understanding of Chinese medicine to go through the book and make sure that the concepts were still true to the more Chinese esoteric way, but that because I had simplified the explanation, I just wanted to make sure it was still consistent. So Dr. Fu was reading the book, and as she was reading it, she was practicing some of the points on herself. She's like, I'm going to try this on myself. So when I met up with her just to get feedback on the book, she said, guess what? My allergies, my skin allergies are going away. I've been massaging this point on myself. It's so easy to do because it's hard to, do acupuncture on yourself. But the reflexology, she could just fit in a few seconds here and there throughout her day. And she's pretty busy with her acupuncture practice. But just by doing that, she saw a measurable difference in her white blood cell count, where there's a particular measurement, and I can never pronounce it correctly. I think it's eosinophil, where when it's elevated, that's a sign of the allergies. And then for the first time in 10 years, hers was testing in the normal range where it had always been elevated. So that was just after a few weeks of her practicing on herself.
That's amazing, and something that can be measured and proven because you see the different levels right there. So this ancient art of foot massage, can really be healing. And we're getting some callers calling in. I'm talking to Holly C. about her book, Soul Guidance, Ancient Secrets of Chinese Reflexology. So we'll go to calls in just a minute, and we'll give away a couple of copies of the book, too. So if you'd like to join us, 866-254-1579. That's the number toll free in the U.S. or Canada. And outside the U.S., dial the U.S. country code 760-918-4300. So let's kind of break it down for people to maybe get started and find a couple of points. I mean, I know it's radio. We're going to get a little descriptive to see if we can, kind of walk people through it. But so what's the easiest way to get started?
Okay, so I'll walk through a couple of points that are easy to walk through on the radio without diagrams. So one of the points is in one of the early chapters where this is a really good point for hearing some of those messages from your soul, so from your feet and your soul, S-O-U-L, because it gives you an indication of where you may be blocking the energy in your life and things that you can do to help clear the energy blocks and also live more joyfully. So the first point then I'd like to share with listeners is what's called the lymphatic drainage point. So this one is super easy to locate, and this was actually the point that Dr. Fu was massaging that was very helpful for her allergies. So for people listening, if they're not familiar with the lymphatic system, it's like the blood circulation system in your body, but instead of blood flowing through these vessels, it's lymph. And lymph helps your body with its immune system to help clear away cellular debris and stuff like that. So, and somebody is leading a very sedentary life, then their lymphatic system would probably be pretty sluggish because the only way that the lymph can move through your body is through physical movement. So unlike your blood where there's a heart to pump it, for the lymph there's no organ pumping the lymph through. It's actually the physical movement of the body that moves the lymph through the body. So when this point on your foot is sensitive, so whenever you have a sensitive point on your foot, it's an indication of a qi disharmony with the corresponding part of your body. So if there is a sensitive lymphatic drainage point, then it's an indication then that the lymph system is maybe a little bit sluggish, or maybe you're not getting as much physical activity as you need. And from a soul perspective, as you mentioned about Louise Hay and the mind-body connection, Louise says that problems with the lymph have to do with joy, like forgetting about the meaning in life. I'm paraphrasing here. I don't remember exact words, but it was about forgetting about things that are important in life, like love and joy. So if this is a sensitive point, then that's something people may want to look at in their lives. So to locate this point, it's really easy. It's on the top of your foot. So everybody, if you can, right now, slip off your shoes.
I'm going to look at my foot right now because I'm
you
wearing
can
kind of a sandal. So.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. You can leave your sock on, but it's easier to do if you don't have your socks on. And hopefully there aren't too many people around you giving you weird looks. And if they are, you should share this with them because it's really powerful. And this point is in the webbing on the top of the foot between the big toe and the second toe. So if you feel those two toes, you can feel the bones in them, right? So give it a try, Diane. Can you feel the bones on the top of the two toes there?
Yes.
Okay, so follow those bones down. So when I say down, go towards your ankle, but you're still feeling on the top of your foot. And you'll find that the bones start to meet and converge at a point, so it's kind of like they form a V there. Okay, so the lymphatic drainage point is in the webbing that goes from the base of the toe, so up at the top of the foot there, and then it goes all the way until you get to that point in the V. So you can just press there with your thumb. So
and you should do just kind of not a hard pressure, but just like a light
go
pressure.
Light right now. And if you read the book, I explain why you don't want to over-massage your feet. There's a few reasons. One, you don't want to irritate the skin. And two, with the increase in qi and blood flow, so when you massage the points, it helps improve the flow of qi, which then helps improve the flow of blood to the area. And if there's a lot of toxins held in the body, you could trigger a detox that's, more than your body can handle at the time. So you really want to kind of ease into these things gradually. So for this point, you could use your knuckle or you could use your thumb pad, and you place it up at the top of the point, so where the base of the toes are, and then you'll stroke down until you get to the V, and do like a pressure that you're comfortable with, and do about, at most, I'd say right now, 15 strokes. So for most people, this is actually a very sensitive point. So if you apply a little bit more pressure, you'll probably notice that it's a little sensitive to the touch, and that's perfectly normal. I think it's a reflection of our modern lifestyle where we do tend to sit too much.
Sedentary.
We're driving. Yes, exactly. We're sitting at our desk. We're sitting on the couch watching TV. Whereas if you observe children, so I have a 7-year-old son, this kid, even when he's having a conversation with you, he can't stay still. So kids, they very, very rarely have sensitive lymphatic drainage points. But that's because they're just moving so much. But adults, I find, tend to be a little more sensitive. The thing, though, too, is if you massage your point daily, so like 15 strokes on both feet, too.
Just pulling down, right? Just kind of stroking down.
Downward direction only. So this is following the flow of the lymph through your body. So you want to follow the natural flow. If you stroke up towards the toes, and you're kind of going against the natural flow, so only do a downward stroke, so from the toe towards the ankle. And so if you do this, it will, over time, become less sensitive. And what that means then is that you're helping to balance the flow of qi through that area of your body, and then that in turn then helps support the physical structures of the body to heal.
And this is an incredible system for detoxing overall. As I was reading through it, I'm like, wow, this is really amazing.
Yeah, so the lymphatic point is like one of those power points for detoxing. But again, I just want to emphasize, because I've seen this with students and readers, there's about 5% who want to ignore me when I say don't do it too much, because there's the belief like, hey, if it's good for me, why don't I just do more, right? So think of it like working out. If you were lifting weights, there's a point where, it's beneficial, and then there's a point where doing it too much is not good for you. So try to keep that in mind. And again, I want to emphasize, too, the whole point of Chinese reflexology and Chinese medicine is to bring the body back into balance. So the way to be in balance is not just through the energy meridians, but also through your approach to life, like taking a balanced approach to life. So please, everyone listening, take a balanced approach to the Chinese reflexology.
Yeah, don't go crazy all at once. That's interesting, though, that particular point, because I was experimenting on some of the other points where you give excellent guidelines in the book, too, by the way, and also systematically what you should do, like certain, I don't know if you would call it a routine or, like certain numbered points that you should do at certain times.
Yeah, I
in the
would
book.
call it a routine. That's
Okay.
a good way to describe
So
it.
that's the correct way to say it.
There's a systematic approach to it. Like, it's not just, randomly press everything here and
Right.
there. There's a way I kind of lead readers through, like, building up the foundation so that they can then add some of the points that will be really powerful for helping them heal, but maybe the ones that could really trigger a lot of detox symptoms. So it's about, getting your body kind of revved and primed to be able to clear away stuff first, and then you start adding the stuff that is going to give your body stuff to clear away because you've held like a lot of toxins in the area. And the first area that comes to mind is like the liver, because the liver filters the blood, and there's so much held in there. So it's good to do the more foundational points first. Do we have time for me to share one more point that I think would be great for
absolutely.
the fall? Okay, this is a really, really good point. And I believe on youcanhealyourlife.com, there'll be an article about this too. So if people don't get it right now listening to the radio, if they want to refer to it later, healyourlife.com is going to publish an article about this point. And this is the lung point. This is really, really good to know as we're heading into the fall, because when the seasons change, that's when our bodies are more susceptible to catching a cold. This lung point can really help. It's good for cold recovery and also good for cold prevention. So if you're starting to feel like, I'm feeling a little run down, or maybe I'm starting to come down with something, you should massage your lung point. So this point is on the sole of your foot, so it'll be on both your left and your right foot.
And also, should you start left or right first? Is there any preference?
I recommend the left foot. It doesn't matter so much right now with the points that I'm talking about, or even in the book, though, I mention it because when you learn the complete system of Chinese reflexology, so you're doing all the points, it's always best to start with the left foot and then do the right foot. So just out of habit, so if people are at some point wanting to get more in depth with Chinese reflexology, it's good to just start off with the right habit, which is the left foot. So if you take a look at your left foot, on the sole of the foot, the lung point is going to be on the ball of the foot. So if you pull back your toes, you've got that whole big fleshy area under the toes, and it will be on the ball of the foot under the 3 middle toes. So you can exclude the area under the big toe and exclude the area under the pinky toe, but just that whole area under those 3 toes. And the way to massage this area, easy way to do it would be to press in with your thumb and just massage
in a circle?
Small circular motion, and just work your way across and down the point. So you could just go in rows.
That feels good.
Yeah. So the thing about this
right
point is that's amazing is when you're on the verge of catching a cold, you will notice that this point is going to feel a little more sensitive. So the energy is already then going out of balance, but you may not notice it physically. So you may not even notice that you're coming down with a cold yet. But if you were to massage your lung point, so you massage it now when you're feeling healthy, you get like a baseline of, okay, this is what my lung point normally feels like. And then when you notice it suddenly feeling sensitive, it's like a red flag immediately to say, oh, I may be coming down with a cold. It's time to, look after myself more, get a little more rest, and to massage the lung point. So this is a good point that if you feel like you're coming down with a cold and you want to prevent it, or you may feel like you're exposed to germs, like say, who hasn't been on an airplane where somebody really close to you, seated near you, is like coughing a lot, right? And then you're thinking, oh God, I don't want to catch that, right? So you can massage your lung point and will help strengthen your body's, the energy in the lung meridian to help protect your body from catching a cold. And then also, if you have a cold, massaging this point helps to strengthen the lung qi, keeps the energy moving through the lungs, which then helps support your body in healing itself. And this is the one point that because I have a routine on my website for cold recovery and prevention. It was actually the first article I ever wrote on my website. It was how the whole site got started. But I hear from so many people who write to me. I'd say, you know what, I was feeling, run down and this and that, or a sore throat or coughing, or my kid had this persistent cough, and then I did this, and then, it cleared away, so thank you so much. So this
That's
is like
so interesting.
Yeah, great point to know.
So
the
amazing.
whole reason I started my blog was I had, this was when my son was about a year and a bit old. Oh, pardon me, I just need to get a sip of water, sorry. And I came down with a really bad cold, but he wasn't old enough to understand that his mom was sick, and then I didn't have anybody I could, I don't have any relatives living near me to say, hey, please help me. So I had to get healthy fast, right? And the whole entire Chinese reflexology routine, there's like about 50 points in total. It was like too much for me at that time to do my own feet because I was just exhausted and sick. So I thought maybe there's a few, based on what I know in Chinese medicine that I can massage that would be great to help me out. And so I did those points on my feet, and then I started to feel better. Like I could feel that tightness in my chest loosening up. And sure, I didn't feel fantastic, but I was, I wasn't getting worse, so I kept the massage up throughout the day. And then by the next day, I'd say I was like, almost 95% better. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. I need to share this because I was part of a mom's group. And if anyone's a mom, your kids get sick, then your husband gets sick, and then you get sick after everybody gets better. So I thought, you know what, this would be so helpful to all the moms I know. And then what if they could massage their kids' feet, too, to help keep their kids healthy? I mean, wouldn't that be wonderful? And that's really how the blog started. I posted an article just sharing this routine, and then it just grew from there. Like I wasn't advertising, I shared it with a few friends, but just through word of mouth, people telling other people, oh my gosh, this works. Come
That's
visit
so great. And
website.
People are open to this, right? I mean, they really want to learn this information because it's so helpful and easy that you can do yourself, for
absolutely.
yourself or your family. So this is so beneficial. And the other benefit that I wanted to mention was the increased intuition that you're able to achieve by working, doing this energy work. And it's something that you call dragon spirit, that will have an increased awareness, I guess, of ourselves by working through this. And I thought that was such an interesting benefit too. And you use this in your work today with your clients, right? This kind of helps you tune in and work with people more accurately.
Yeah. So what it is that everybody hears messages from their heart and soul, but then what happens is we discount it. We get too much into our heads, we get too busy, so we kind of just forget about it. It's like ignoring our feet. We're ignoring our heart and soul. So when you start to, we also ignore our bodies, so we get out of touch with our bodies, and that's how health issues come up. I know with myself, like that year of illness I had, I was totally ignoring my health and all the signals my body was sending. I was working too late, not getting enough sleep, not eating right, totally stressed out, and ignoring it all. And then so my body spoke up. So with the thing is, though, rather than wait until your body completely breaks down, when you massage your feet, you're getting the message straight from the energy in your body. So you don't need to see auras. You don't need to tune in. You can measure through the sensitivity of your feet what's going on at the energy level in your body. So as you massage your feet, and then it's not like it's 100% precise that you must massage right here, because I often have people going, oh, is it like a millimeter here? Pardon me, I'm from Canada, so I'm using metric. So is it like a 16th of an inch here, or, maybe a little higher here? The thing is that it's different for each person. We all have different shaped bodies, and your foot is a microcosm just for your body, not somebody else's body. So I give these guidelines, and then as you massage your feet, you start to get a sense of where your exact point is. So the guidelines are really great. They are very close, but you may need to tweak a little just for yourself. But as you massage your feet, you become more in tune with your body. You become more in tune with the energy that's going on in your body. And then when you're more into your body and less in your head, that's what opens you up to hearing your own intuition, your own inner guidance, which I call dragon spirit, which is really like just a fun way to describe your higher guidance, because I was guided by my dragon spirit, my higher guidance, to call it dragon spirit, because this book is especially good for people who are analytical or thinker types who just think about things too much or worry about things, because dragon spirit is a way to reconnect with that voice within, the one that's craving adventure and exploration. And as you tune into that inner voice more, then it just leads your life into all these amazing directions, which ties right back into your health, because when you're living that more expansive life, the one that your heart and soul knows that you can do, the one that your heart and soul wants you to live, then you're living in this joy and in this expansive energy, which then means that the chi in your body is flowing more easily and freely and abundantly, which then translates into the physical health being very, robust and abundant too.
Right. So when you make that connection, you can really discover what your body needs to heal.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so great. That's such a cool added bonus to the whole process, which I think is so interesting. I mean, and it's very complete with the book, because I was working through some of the routines, and putting it all together. And you suggest that people read it all the way through, even though you might be tempted. Like at first, I'm like, okay, what do you do for stomach? Let me see what you do for indigestion. Like I was looking for exactly what to work on, but you suggest kind of working through the book as a whole, learning all the points, and then you can kind of go back and hone in on specific ailments that you might have.
Yes, because with Chinese medicine, it takes a much more holistic view of the body. So all of those energy meridians are interconnected. So if you just focused on stomach, you would be ignoring the relationship of the spleen meridian to the stomach or the liver meridian to the stomach, because just massaging the stomach alone wouldn't be able to balance it if there's this condition called liver attacking the spleen. And then the spleen is supposed to support digestion in Chinese medicine. That's the theory there. So even though we have a different view from Western medicine, in Chinese medicine, the spleen is like the most important organ and energy meridian for healthy digestion. So it's not something we would think if we didn't study Chinese medicine, but it's important then that the spleen meridian be balanced and strong, because it's providing the energy for healthy digestion. And then it's important that the liver meridian is in balance, because if it's overactive, say, the liver is very easily affected by stress and anger and frustration. So if we're going through that, then our liver meridian might be out of balance, and then that it's like hot energy kind of transferring from the liver over to the spleen, then affecting the spleen and affecting the digestion. So everything is interconnected. When you take a holistic approach, you're helping all these other meridians that can support with the healing for whatever condition it is that you might have in mind. Like I said before, it's about bringing the body back into balance as a whole, so that the body then has the environment it needs in order to heal itself.
Right, and that makes so much sense. And I wanted to grab a couple of calls while we still had time. So you ready to answer some questions?
Sure, that'd be great.
Well, let's go to line 2 and Lily, and she's in Maine. And this is a great question. I'm asking about reflexology and the nervous system. And Lily, welcome to the show. Thanks for calling in today.
Well, hello. Blessings to you both. This is going to be fun.
It is, and it's really interesting.
Well, ironically, my grandpa was a dentist before he passed on, and he was extremely skeptical about anything holistic, but he had to go through cancer, and of all things, he ended up at someone who did reflexology. He grumbled and said he did it work, but he kept going for weeks. He was getting benefit. He just wouldn't admit it.
That's great.
Awesome.
That's huge. He was the head of the Dental Association up here in Maine for a number of years, so no small feat. What I've got for a question for you, for myself, my nervous system tends to be on the sensitive side. Are there some points I can use to help with my nervous system? Days not just like where you're just feeling rotten stress on top of it. You know what I mean?
Okay, so when you say sensitive, do you mean that you tend to feel like stressed or anxious, or
well, I get insomnia, terrible insomnia, among other things. And I've been following of all people Anthony Williams' heavy metal detox, and that's been helping. Like the brain fog starting to clear. But what can I do to help support my nervous system? And on top of that, this is going to sound dumb, but if I don't get the right massage point, can I hurt can I do, you know what I mean? Like if I think I'm getting the right meridian and I'm actually massaging, I don't know, the meridian from my shoulder or something, I can't hurt myself, right?
As long as you're doing it in moderation, and so when I was talking about the 5% who are overdoing it, those are people who are massaging way longer than the times that I recommend. But if you follow the times and directions I give, then it's very unlikely that you could hurt yourself because, like I said before, your chi naturally knows the way that it wants to flow. So if you accidentally for a few seconds go the wrong way, so I don't advise people to do that, but your chi is going to go back into balance because you can't move it that much just by massaging with your fingers and knuckles. But if you look at that river analogy I gave before, like, for example, if there's a dam in the river and you poke a hole in it, because the water is flowing naturally that way over time, then the water going through that hole will eventually help clear away the river. So it is very beneficial to keep the massage up. So for a sensitive nervous system, I actually have a couple of articles that I would recommend where I write about a few different points that there's acupressure points as well as Chinese reflexology points that help calm your system down. So one of them, if you go to ChineseFootReflexology.com/calm, that'll be easy to remember. So ChineseFootReflexology.com and /calm. I share a number of points that are really good for helping to calm the body. So to kind of, settle things down when you're feeling stressed. And then I also have an article that has points that are good for sleep. So same URL, ChineseFootReflexology.com /sleep. So easy to remember, /calm and /sleep. It almost feels like now that sometimes I love how the universe is everything is so interconnected, because it almost feels like I wrote those articles for you. It just took us to meet in this time on Hay House Radio in order for me to share it with you. So I'm really glad then that you called in.
That's so perfect. And Lily, we're going to get you a copy of Holly's book, which goes way in depth, a lot more on working with this. And this is definitely going to help your stress too.
I can't wait to read it. And again, thank you so much. It's a blessing, and many blessings with your book launch. It's great.
Sure. Well, hold on, Lily. And again, that website is ChineseFootReflexology.com, and you have all kinds of information on there that people can spend some time clicking through and seeing what's going to help them with this.
Yeah, the site is full of articles. So it's a blog, and I just post articles all the time on common health issues and ways that Chinese reflexology can help.
And you've been doing this full-time now since 2004, right?
Actually, 2004 is when I learned Chinese reflexology, and then I was still going with that back and forth, working in technology, doing the holistic healing part-time. So it took me until, it was probably 2007, I think, when I finally left high tech. And then my actual full-time job is I'm a full-time mom. So this is my job on top of a job.
Right. But you've been doing this and studying this for a long time.
Yeah.
And I also have to say, too, I really like the style and the way that you wrote this. It's very conversational, and you also throw in some of your own sense of humor in here on occasion. I noticed that in the book. So it's appreciative, when you're reading something that could be, because sometimes books like this can be very dry or, very technical or, too medicinal, I guess could be one word. But this is really fun to read and go through as well as learn something. So I wanted to let you know that for sure.
Oh, I'm glad you like that. Yeah, it was my intention. I really wanted it to make it fun and interesting for people to learn more about their bodies and how they can heal themselves.
Well, let's go to another call and see if we can help somebody here. Line 2, Suzanne, and she's in Palm Springs, California, asking about a neurological condition. And
Hello.
Suzanne, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for holding.
Thank you for taking my call.
Sure, you're on with Holly. And
Hi, Holly.
what was
Hi.
the condition that you wanted to ask about?
Well, it's kind of similar to MS, but it's called primary lateral sclerosis. So it's with the motor neurons, and my legs are weaker than my arms, and my balance is off,
And
Well,
Holly, what have you
wondering,
seen with something like
this
that?
help?
With Chinese reflexology, since as I mentioned before, it's about bringing the body back into balance, so creating the conditions for balance. So the thing with specific illnesses is, while I do write about health issues on my site and points that can help, when there's something going on with the whole body as a whole, like as you were discussing with your condition, so it's more than just, massage this point for the brain or that point for, my legs. It's about bringing the whole body back into balance, because when you address a lot of those underlying energy disharmonies in your body, and in my book, I talk about all those different points that are for the body's primary energy meridians. There's a whole bunch in there about them. So when you massage those points and bring those back into balance, then you help strengthen your body, and you help give your body the energy and the chi it needs in order to heal. So every condition stems from originally some sort of energy imbalance. So when you address it holistically, then your body can it's kind of like looking at it like a boat sailing in one direction, and it happens to be sailing where you don't want it to go right now. But when you start massaging your points as a whole, it stops the boat from going in that direction, and then you're able to start steering it the right way. So it's like a positive cycle. So as things start to balance, maybe at first, you find yourself sleeping a little better, or you start to have more energy. That's a sign then that the energy in the body is strengthening, that the things that were pulling you off balance are starting to come back more into balance. And then it's the conditions that can help support your body's natural healing process. So I totally believe that every single person within their body has, their body is the thing that's doing the healing, and the Chinese reflexology is just providing a modality to help the body heal itself.
So this could definitely help along with whatever else you're doing as well. Wouldn't you say, Holly, it would be a great compliment?
Yes. Yes, that sounds good. It sounds right.
Well, we'll get you a copy, Suzanne.
Oh, thank you so much.
And you could read through it and see if this
really
could be
excited
helpful.
About this.
Yeah, it's really fun. So hold on. We'll get you that book out to you in Palm Springs. And thanks so much for calling. And like the other woman caller had said earlier, her father that was skeptical, at first in using this, but can be a great complement for whatever healing that you're working with, or whatever you're working with your doctor currently, right? So this is something that you could bring to the table and say, look, let's try this as well to help bring me into balance. Do you agree, Holly?
Oh, yes, except chances are your doctor's going to think you're nuts.
That might be true. Some people are kind of opening up to more holistic methods, but yeah.
When it's explained as it's similar to acupuncture without needles, then it'll be easier to understand. But if you're just thinking it's feet, it can seem like a bit of a stretch of a connection. So the irony is that I used to be really skeptical about Chinese reflexology. So when I was going through that, what I called my year of illness, and nothing seemed to be helping, I was seeing holistic practitioners. I was going to the Western doctor, told me that all my tests were perfect. I was, very healthy. And I'm like, no, I'm not, right? My husband, he was my boyfriend at the time, suggested I go see his Chinese reflexologist. And I was like, what? Isn't that where they rub your feet? And it was so ironic because I was so open to all these different types of holistic healing. But for some reason, I thought, feet? How's that going to help me? But when I went to see the reflexologist, it was amazing how everything that was wrong, quote unquote wrong in my body, so out of balance, it was showing up in my feet as sensitive points, and he just kept going. He's like, spleen problem, kidney problem, this problem, that problem. And over time, though, over seeing him regularly, the points became less sensitive, and then those health issues I have, where I kept wondering, when's the next thing going to strike me? Because it was weird illness after weird illness. Like, they stopped coming, my health stabilized. And then he asked me, do you want to learn how to practice on yourself? And I thought, okay, seems like a good idea. And within a year and a half of learning this system and practicing on myself regularly, I went from being so sick where I seriously was wondering if I was dying. I was actually had recovered my health so much that not only was I not sick anymore, I was actually training for my first ever triathlon.
Wow. So just have an open mind, right?
Yeah. It's your feet. It's so easy to do. Just give it a try and see. Like, the ones that have the most immediate effect are for, like, short-term acute imbalances. So, for example, if you have a headache or if you have a cold, because it's like a temporary imbalance in the energy of the body. So when you send it back into balance, then the body heals very quickly. So try it for those things. And then for the longer-term chronic conditions, like the thing our caller was talking about today, it takes longer, but it took so many years for your body to reach that point. Like, it doesn't take that many years to balance back with the Chinese reflexology because, as I said, your qi wants to flow the way it naturally wants to flow. So if you give it a little boost with the reflexology, then your body's just going to run with it and want to return to balance. So just practice. Like, again, don't overdo the practice. Follow the guidelines on my website or in the book. And as you practice consistently over time, it's like using, like I was talking about, a boat going in the wrong direction. It's kind of like you're putting your oar in the lake and you're starting to steer that boat. And each time you dip the oar in, so each time you practice the reflexology, moderately and consistently as directed, you're putting the oar in to get the momentum on the boat. And then the more you row, then your boat naturally will just go with the flow.
Right. And just to answer one more quick question here from Pam in Texas, because we just have about 2 minutes left, but she wanted to find out how to find a good practitioner in her area. Is there kind of a national network, or should she just go to your website?
Unfortunately with Chinese reflexology, it is not, even though you see those foot massage parlors, those aren't authentic Chinese reflexology, the $20 foot massage. So I would actually recommend practicing on yourself. So get a copy of the book and practice on yourself, because the only practitioners I know of one in San Francisco, like this is the real authentic Chinese reflexology. There's myself, but I'm focused more on online teaching now. And then the doctor that I learned from, Dr. Gilbert Tay, who is in the Toronto area up in Canada. But other than that, it's because this is a really niche-y kind of branch of Chinese medicine. So with acupuncture is very popular, but Chinese reflexology is a much more smaller branch of that medicine, and so it's not as well known in North America.
So, and Pam, we're going to send you a copy of the book, too. We just didn't have time to really take the call because we just have a minute left. But hold on and we'll get you a copy, and hopefully that'll help you get started. And I'm sure there's so much information online, if you just do a little digging or find a traditional Chinese practitioner, Chinese medicine practitioner somewhere in your area. That could also be helpful, too. So, Holly, where are you going to be? Are you going to be speaking? Can people reach you if they have more questions? I think you're going to have a lot of success with this book.
Oh, thank you so much. The best way to get in touch with me is come to my website, ChineseFootReflexology.com. That's where I post, the latest programs coming up or any speaking I'm doing. And there's just so much information. Like, the site is just article upon article upon article. I'm not one of those people who puts up a whole bunch of, buy this, buy that, and that's it on the website. The site is a resource. It's a resource for people to use to learn how to practice on themselves.
So there's a lot of great information on the site, and the book is out, and you can get it at hayhouse.com, Amazon, or your local bookstore. And if you're curious, give Chinese foot reflexology a try. Holly walks you through it step by step. And I think people are really going to enjoy working with this book. And Holly, I hope to see you at a I Can Do It event sometime and get to thank you personally. And thanks so much for joining me today on the show.